Welcome, welcome. So excited to be here today. Hello, you liberated living family. Such a pleasure to connect you on this. Where I'm at, it's a super rainy, damp day, but wonderful to connect you. Susan Stevens, founder of the Breakdown to Breakthrough Facebook group and program, intuitive counselor, nutritionist, herbalist intern, and all that juicy stuff. I'm so excited to talk to you today about diet meets digestion. So today we are going to get down, we are going to get dirty. This is going to be like a full-on nutrition seminar. And I haven't done this in a while. And I was like, yeah, people need to know. People need to know. So we're going to be talking about beating the bloat, reducing acid reflux in the diet, as well as really elevating absorption so that you guys can feel incredible, energized, optimized, less cravings, all of that juicy, amazing stuff. So we'll just wait a couple minutes. We'll see who jumps on here. Comment below, what are you dealing with digestion wise or even health wise? What's going on in your world? Just drop a comment. For anybody that comes on this call in the next little while, I'm going to be digging down. I'm going to be digging down and deep into some nutritional issues and giving people tips on what to do when it comes to their health, their digestion, foods, flavors, all of the above. How can we get you feeling amazing? I love you, Ian. So good to have you here, buddy. Thank you. These are my new addition. So what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to cover is we are going to go into a core training when it comes to absorption. And this is the key thing to note. People always say you are what you eat, but it's not you are what you eat. It's you are what you absorb. Okay? You are what you absorb. So we got to elevate our absorption. And so for today, this is what we're going to cover on this class. At any time, pop a comment, as I said before, and I will try to answer as many questions as possible, okay? For anybody, first of all, that's needing extra support, I always say this now at the beginning of the call, feel free to book a breakthrough call with me if you're wanting help in this area, just to really connect into where you are, what you're trying to manifest in your life, and what you got, where you gotta go. So today we're gonna cover what is HCl, what is hydrochloric acid, and why is it so important in the body? Why is HCl so important, and what it impacts? So we're going to cover absorption and energy. We're going to cover bile production as well, and I have notes. So if I'm looking away, I want to make sure I'm covering everything today. We're going to cover positive gene expression and pathogenic protection and immunity, as well as regularity. So these are all the things that HCl helps and benefits. The other things we're going to cover is symptoms of high and low stomach acid. And so we're going to break it down into two types of digestive issue for now, just to keep it really basic. And then we are going to go into why having a healthy mucosa is good for you internally in the body. It's really funny, as I'm like tuning in, I'm getting crazy energy in the back of my head. So I don't know whose that is, but somebody's coming in my life with some crazy energy. And then the other thing is we're going to talk about how coffee and alcohol impact the digestive system, and what you can do. What are a couple recommendations? I'm not going to give you all my secrets, free of charge, but I am going to give you some juicy tidbits to get you on the right path. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about digestion. And the very first thing, because I have done, as a nutritionist, we focus hugely on digestion because it's all about creating an optimum digestion so you can absorb as many nutrients, as many minerals as possible. Now, people only think that digestion happens in, the stomach or the intestines. But what I've come to realize over years of, 15 years of being a nutritionist is that a huge majority of digestion happens in the blood. So for example, when you have coagulation in the blood, so anybody that eats an acidic diet, so for example, even if you eat oatmeal for breakfast, that means you're going to have higher acidity in the body because you're not eating enough alkaline. So when you have more acidity, the cells clump together. They clump together like glue. I wish I could have a picture for you right now. This is where we're probably going to do a seminar at some point. But when they stack together, those cells don't have cellular exposure to the blood plasma, meaning that's where the blood plasma is where all your nutrients go, all your vitamins, all your minerals, all of that stuff. So if your cells are stacked, like rouleau they call it, or if the non-medical term is like blood sludge or agglutination, well then you're not going to have absorption in the blood, meaning you could have enough iron in your body, in your blood. You could be eating enough iron-rich foods, but your blood cells aren't able to absorb the iron from the blood. This is why so many times people take iron and they can't absorb it. The doctor says it's not going up. And it's why? Because you don't have an iron deficiency. You have an absorption issue. You don't have an iron issue, you got an absorption issue. So just to mention, that's what we're going to talk about with the blood. So first things first, what is hydrochloric acid? Okay, so hydrochloric acid is stomach acid, and you need a very acidic level of hydrochloric acid so that you can break down vitamins and minerals and all that juicy stuff in. It is unbelievable, this energy that's in my head. I'm just like, oh my God. Something just as I got on the call. Okay, so who knows? Let's have a guess. What do you guys feel the pH level of stomach acid should be in the stomach? Does anyone know? So comment below if you know what the level is. So the level in your tummy of the pH level of stomach acid needs to be a pH of 2. So super highly acidic, okay? Very highly acidic. And why that's so important is because you need a high acidity in your tummy so that your pancreas, your body releases hydrochloric acid into the stomach. And hydrochloric acid helps to elicit more enzymes, such as like protease, a lot of the pancreatic enzymes into the stomach to help down with the breakdown of proteins and nutrients. So the one biggest thing why a lot of people, especially with like bodybuilders and these people, is they eat a ton of protein, but sometimes they don't have enough stomach acid to break down the protein. This is why if you're a person that gets bloated after you eat a lot of protein or meat, it's probably because your stomach acid is low. Okay? The other thing is, to absorb nutrients like B12 and iron, you have to have a lot of HCl to help transport those nutrients, into the duodenum, into the intestinal tract. So if you don't have, and here's all the nutrients that HCl supports. So, B12, calcium, iron, zinc. Let me just see if I miss folic acid, and the amino acids. So everything that makes up the red blood cells. So if you ever get a doctor's test and you see that your red blood cells are low, this is because your digestive system is weak. Okay, so that's the very first thing to know, that if you have, low red blood cell counts, it's probably, there could be many different factors, but one of them is a digestive issue. Okay, so first of all, let's look at this carefully for a minute. So many people, especially people that have osteopenia and osteoporosis, okay, they need calcium, but the problem is, so their doctor tells them, go take 1,000 milligrams of calcium citrate, which probably isn't the best. And the doctor doesn't check their stomach acid levels. And so the problem is, if people just take calcium without having enough hydrochloric acid, well, then that calcium can't get broken down and absorbed into the bones. And what happens is that those extra calcium deposits that aren't absorbed actually get deposited into the into the arteries, into the gallbladder. They form gallbladder stones, kidney stones. Some people will even get bone spurs and all of the above, and it's because their body can't break it down. And here's the problem: is every decade you age, your HCl production reduces by close to 10%. So by the time you're 70 or 80, it's your stomach acid production is nil. And then this is the problem, is that most doctors are putting elderly people on thousands of milligrams of calcium when they have no absorption ability. Okay, so when it comes to absorption, you really want to see, if you look at your fingernails, first of all, if you see white spots on your fingernails, that's a sign that you have low zinc. Okay, low zinc in the body. So if you see white spots on your fingernails, that's low zinc. And you could tell that might be that you have an absorption issue. There could be other reasons too, but that's one of them. The other thing you want to look at when it comes to do I have good absorption or not, you want to look at your fingernails and see if they have longitudinal striations. Okay, longitudinal striations. If you look at your fingernails and they're not smooth, they have a lot of dents in them or striations, that's a major sign that you have digestive weakness. Yes, hi baby, I'm so glad you're here. So yes, ridges on the nails. And I think right away, I even know when I had my son and I was pregnant, I was feeding for 2. So I started developing deep grooves in my nails because he was stealing all my nutrition. But with most people, it's the fact that they're not eating the correct foods to help keep their digestive system strong. And we're going to go deeper and deeper into this, okay? So we'll go more into the symptoms of digestive weakness. Okay, so we talked about B12 and we talked about iron. So when it comes to digestive issues, why do we need B12 first of all? Well, B12 is really important when it comes to neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all of the different neurotransmitters that help you to feel happy and healthy and the feel-good hormones. So B12 is one of the biggest catalysts in the production of these neurotransmitters. So this is why, and I just want to share something about B12 with you. Yeah, Raya, I know, and so many people have these striations, and I think the number one thing I see with clients is digestive issues, and it's the very first place we always have to start. So with B12 too, you might go to your doctor and your doctor's like, okay, you do a B12 test and you test as maybe 200. And I think if you're over 100 or 150, he's like, you're fine. Well, this is bull crap, because if you're around 200 when it comes to B12, you are bottom basement low. Bottom basement, meaning you're probably experiencing severe depression, fatigue, moodiness, emotions, inability to focus, inability to concentrate, lack of memory. You may even be experiencing like numbness in your fingers and feet, and all the above. So a good healthy level of B12 is probably closer to 700 or even higher. You'd have to take a lot of B12 to really overdose on it. The other things is like iron. How you know you have good iron, I'll give you a little tip, is you press your fingernail, and it should be red first of all to start. If it's not red, you can tell there's a bit of an iron issue. But when you press it down, it should go white and then come back to red really fast. If it doesn't come back to red really fast, it's right away you'll know you have an iron issue. Okay? You might also see it like with your periods. Sometimes your blood isn't as red. And I could go a lot into periods, but we won't talk about that today. But so some of these things. So making sure that we're talking about HCl and why it's so important when it comes to digestion. So for anyone that's jumping on the call, this is about diet meets digestion, and post a comment. If you're dealing with any health issues, put it in the comments below and I'll try to address it during this seminar. Okay? So the other reason too we need so much HCl is bile production. Okay? When your stomach is acidic, and I talked about stomach acidity, it has to be a pH of 2. Okay? The blood always has to be a pH of 7.35 to 7.45, meaning it can't leave that range. If your blood leaves that range, you die. That's enzymes stop functioning and existing, and you can no longer go on. So your body has so many protection mechanisms to make sure your blood stays within that pH. Okay, so when it comes to bile production, the more acidic your stomach is, the more bile that you're going to produce, and your liver / gallbladder are going to excrete. Why is this important for you? And here's some little symptoms to tell you that you might have bile issues. Or gallbladder issues. If you get little dots on the back of the arms, on the back of your legs, that tells you have a bile production issue. That's an inability to convert beta carotene into vitamin A. And it can come from multiple issues, but one of them is low stomach acid causing lack of bile production. Okay, so, and why is bile so important? Bile is the ingredients that breaks down fat. It acts like soap to grease. So if you don't have any bile, you can't break down that cheeseburger you ate. You can't break down, that olive oil or that beautiful avocado salad you had, and all the above. And people will know too, sometimes they have gallbladder issues if they stick out their tongue and they have lines or cracks on the side of their tongue, or perhaps dots going up and down the tongue. So bile production is really important when it comes to breaking down fat, because all hormones in the body are made of fat. Okay, so if you want good hormonal balance, you got to make sure you have good bile production. Okay, the other thing is that all the essential, your specific vitamins, A, D, E, and K, they are fat soluble vitamins. Okay, that means that they can only be absorbed with fat, and which is impacted by bile production. Okay, so vitamin A is good for the eyes. Vitamin D, you guys know all about that, good with immunity. K, great for bone health, and E, great for antioxidants. So it's huge. Bile production is huge, okay? I tell people all the time. And here's how you know you might have bile issues. Your gallbladder meridian runs up the side. So anybody, lately, everybody's been feeling pain here in my practice, all along, running up and down the side of the head and around. The gallbladder meridian goes up, back and down. So if you get headaches, if you're getting pain in the side, if you're getting loose stools or yellow stools or grease, kind of like a film on your stools, that can be gallbladder. Okay, I'm going to keep going because I just realized this is going to be a long talk. So I'm going to try to just skip a couple things. But the other thing is, so making sure you have enough hydrochloric acid is really important for gallbladder. Okay, this is why sometimes people will say, have lemon with every meal. Why? Because lemon has a pH of 2. And the same as the stomach, and same with apple cider vinegar. And it can actually elevate your hydrochloric acid in your stomach and help with bile production. Okay, so it's amazing. So the other things too, so why is it so good to have HCl? Another tip is that, you need strong stomach acid, because if you're worried about COVID, if you're worried about getting sick, the number one defense to getting sick is good stomach acid, because that is where, pathogens, bacteria, viruses in some cases, it when you consume food or if it's on your food, it's the first place it meets is the stomach acid. And the stomach acid, if it's not strong enough, so if it's not acidic enough, well, then that's when you can, it doesn't cause like parasite death or viral death or bacterial death. And you can see it with things like H. pylori, which is a bacteria in the stomach that can cause ulcers in your stomach lining, and as well as other things. But a big reason why people get H. pylori is because they don't have enough stomach acid, is one of the reasons. Okay, so if you want, especially if you go eat sushi and you go and you have like raw food and all of that incredible, delicious, yummy stuff, it's so good to have strong stomach acid. And this is why when you go to eat sushi, they also give you ginger a lot of the times, because it can help with killing of the parasites. So, what's the other thing? Regularity and toxicity. So, same thing. If you have a lot of stomach acid, it can really help move the bowel. Okay, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes, but so here's the thing. It can either, and it all depends if you have high or low stomach acid. People with high stomach acid tend to be more constipated because there's more dryness in the body, and people with low stomach acid tend to have looser stools. But it all depends, because it's a very complex issue. So the more regularity, the more acidic your tummy is, the better the pH balance of the intestines, the small intestine, the large intestine, and the holding of water in the body, so that you can get nicely formed stools. And the more acidic your stomach is, it creates peristalsis in the bowel. Peristalsis. So when you don't have enough acid, that's why, people will recommend, bitters or lemon or all these things. And the reason they do is to stimulate peristalsis. So it'll help you go 3 times a day. Okay, so that's what people are like, what? 3 times a day? There was a girl that used to say 3 times, what was her name? Brenda Watson from Renew Life would always say 3 times a day, the size of your forearm. or the length of the length of your forearm. That's a whole lot of vegetables, but that is probably how many vegetables you should be eating a day. So 3 times a day is the goal. Okay, comment below. How many times do you guys go to the washroom a day? I want to know. I want to know. This is the joy of doing these calls, is we get to just talk about bowel movements all the time. It's really, really fun. So the other thing that I wanted to share with you is, well, first of all, let's look at the second thing, which is, so this is why, first of all, hydrochloric acid is super important. But the other thing you got to realize is there can be low stomach acid, but there can also be high stomach acid. And high stomach acid can cause things like heartburn, acid reflux, GERD, and all the above. But so can low stomach acid. So this is where it can be confusing with people as to what is going on and what is the root cause, okay? But people with high stomach acid will tend to have symptoms of, and we'll go through the symptoms in 1 second, but, you know, heartburns, but they might just also feel dry everywhere else in the body, you know, like dryness in the lungs, like yellow phlegm, dryness in the bowel, constipation, you know, maybe they'll get night sweats, or maybe they'll have a red complexion or rosy cheeks, okay? So what else is important when it comes to digestion? So the other thing I really like to focus on with people is mucosal lining. Okay, so mucosal lining. People need to have a plush mucosal lining in the bowel, in the stomach. The reason why this is so important is that's your protective layer against like protective layers, so that everything that is supposed to be there stays there and it doesn't seep out into areas that it shouldn't belong. Hence, acid seeping outside of the stomach lining walls, never a good thing, dangerous. And also with leaky gut issues, so people that have autoimmune allergies, eczema, asthma, you know, the 3 A's, is a lot of times it's a low mucosa issue. They don't have enough mucosal lining in the gut. And so if they have other things going on like parasites and heavy metals, it can cause holes in the lining. So important to keep your mucosal lining plush. And there's certain foods that can definitely irritate it. Okay, so we'll see how long we go, because I want to give you guys a few tips. So I'm going to go through the symptoms and keep it pretty short. And then we'll just talk a little bit about coffee and alcohol, and also a couple suggestions. I'm not going to give away all my tips, but I will give you a couple things going forward. Okay, so the other thing that you guys want to know about, should know about, is symptoms of low stomach acid, symptoms of high. So let's start with low. And usually people, when they don't have enough stomach acid, their actual body will hold water. Like they'll tend to have like a real puffy tongue, really a lot swollen, maybe pale, and so forth. So people that tend to have low stomach acid will experience things like bloating. You'll eat a meal and you bloat. You'll eat beans and you'll bloat. Especially carbs. Carbs will just cause so much bloating in these people. You know, other symptoms would be undigested foods in the stool, or things like, I'm just looking over at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. Things like also belching, you know, after meals, or burping. Sometimes these people will experience like bone issues, as we said, because they can't absorb nutrients. So osteopenia, osteoporosis, kidney stones, gallbladder stones. What else would they experience? Just fatigue, cravings, because if you can't absorb nutrients, you can't absorb food. Like you can't absorb, so your body will be like, I need more food. So the biggest thing I always tell people is you really want to work with digestion, okay, to reduce cravings. Whoever has pain in the back of the occipital right now, I'm feeling it. Okay, so, what else? Candida. These people might be a lot more prone to candida. Even things like greasy stools, iron deficiency, B12 deficiency, chronic fatigue, a lot of times heart issues, blood pressure issues, because minerals is what reduces blood pressure. And so these people will tend to have like also things like, you know, yeah, heart disease, can have higher risk of strokes, all of the above. So this is if that sounds like you, tell me on the call if it sounds like, first of all, you have more low stomach acid or high stomach acid. High stomach acid, people will experience things like heartburn, nausea in their stomach, maybe reflux, maybe they feel hot all the time, maybe they'll experience dryness, or even like sometimes waking up in the middle of the night to pee, because there is a lack of fluid in the body with people with high stomach acid. And the reason is because when you give yourself really acidic foods, and this isn't pH acidic, this is like, how do I explain it? Bitter or sour foods, too many of them, it actually causes your body to pee out water. Okay, so you get dryness, constipation, flushed cheeks, flush in the face, night sweats, okay? So this is the difference with Western nutrition and Chinese medicine is that Western nutrition and the nutrition I was taught, they'll give you like a one approach, like one diet fits all. But it's very different. In Chinese medicine, you really have to figure out what is your constitution and what foods and flavors you need for that specific constitution. Okay? So we'll just say it here. I'm not going to give you all the Chinese medicine terms right now, but I'll just say it in terms of Western terms. So high cortisol or low cortisol, or sorry, hydrochloric acid. Okay, so here's how you figure out. There's a little test too, and only do this test if you don't have heartburn, or like if you know you have nausea or heartburn, then don't do this test because it might bother you. But first of all, okay, so before I tell you about this, with high HCl, if you look at your tongue and you stick it out, there'll be a tendency to have a crack right down the middle of the tongue. And the middle of the tongue is where the stomach is and the digestive system in Chinese medicine. And if you have a crack, it means that you might have low mucosa in the stomach lining, okay? So what this means is that, you know, you got to be consuming foods that are more cooling instead of warming in the body. Okay, so let's give you some tips. So first of all, let's talk about coffee and let's talk about alcohol when it comes to hydrochloric acid. So here's the thing with coffee. There's definitely some people that coffee is better for, meaning coffee is generally better for people with low hydrochloric acid because they have more mucus in the body, more dampness, as they call in Chinese medicine. And so when you get more dampness or mucus, the flavor you want is bitter. Okay, bitter. But the problem with the people in the West, when they drink coffee, they drink a huge cup of coffee with lots of caffeine, and it's too much bitter at one time. And this is why, you know, why people drink espresso sometimes with meals, is it's a small amount of bitter, and if it's right for your specific constitution, it can work well because it's a small amount. It's almost like a digestive bitter. But with most people, it's a huge cup of coffee. It's after their meal, which is the worst time to drink that much water because you're flushing all the hydrochloric acid in the body and you're diluting it so that you can't break down your food, okay? But the other thing is that it's a lot of caffeine. And every single time, now I forget this stat. I used to teach seminars and I forget the stat. But when you drink 1 cup of coffee, it reduces your stomach acid by 300 to 400%. Okay, so meaning it releases so much stomach acid into your digestive system and flushes it. So the next time you go to have a meal, you don't have any hydrochloric acid left. Your body has to reproduce stomach acid. Okay, has to reproduce stomach acid. This is exhausting. This is why people that drink coffee every day, let alone 1 coffee a day, people are like, it's only 1 coffee a day. I'm like, that's a lot. 1 coffee a day is a lot. Let alone, I used to drink, 3 large coffees. 3 large coffees the size of like the Tim Hortons coffee, the size of your head coffees, okay? I was like, oh my God, I was crazy back in the day. And you know what's so funny? I was so tired back then, and the coffee was robbing all my energy, okay? The other thing with coffee is 1 cup of coffee increases your cortisol levels or decreases them, which can be even worse, for 48 hours or even longer. So you got to get off the stims, okay? As I like to say, get off the stimulants because they're robbing you of all your joy and good mojo. Okay, the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol can act exactly the same way. So there's lots of good alternatives for coffee. If anyone, I don't know who's on the call, if anybody drinks coffee, it's so hard. Sometimes it can be so hard to get off. And there's a lot of tips, and a lot of times it's an emotional issue. So that's where you come to me for a session, because sometimes that, for a lot of people, that's the only time in the day where they're giving themselves comfort and a treat. And a lot of times when I tell people to get off their coffee, they really give me the death stare. Like, like they want me dead. They're like, hot damn, don't fuck with this person. So, then it's not something we give up. Then we got to work with the root. But there's actually some cool alternatives to coffee. One is Ticino. I'll drop it in the comment box. I think it's a barley dandelion alternative. And there is also, like, how I got off coffee is I went on hot chocolate, like raw cacao, and I also did, like almond milk or organic cow's milk or whatever you would like. And I found I needed to switch to something creamy. I still needed to have something creamy and kind of bitter in the beginning to slowly change my taste buds. So a couple tips is, like, you could try a matcha tea. It's still a little bitter, but it's better. Or a hot chocolate, or even a decaf, because at least it won't rob you of all your HCl. Okay, are you guys still with me? This is I was like, how long do I want to do this today? We'll see. So the other thing we could do for digestion is, so if you have low stomach acid, so here's the test. If you take 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach, okay, and you wait for maybe a couple minutes, you should feel a burning in your stomach, okay? So you should feel, I'm just like making sure I'm saying this right because I haven't done it in a while. So it should almost be hot, 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 and then it dissipates, okay? So hot, hot, hot. Hi, Kimmy, I love you. Hot, 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 then it dissipates. If you hardly feel any burning at all, then your stomach acid, if you feel no burning, your stomach acid is super low, okay? If you feel like average burning, then it's like medium. If you feel really hot and it goes away, then it's perfect. But if you feel hot and it lingers, then you have too much. Okay, and that's when you need to take a Tums or baking soda or something like that. So this is a cool test to be like, yeah, where is my stomach acid at? Oh, yours is no burn, Kimmy? Oh my goodness. And you would think yours would be a burn. That's interesting. It's so complex because some people that even have red tongues with cracks, you'd think they would have a more stomach acid, but their actually adrenals can stop producing stomach acid. So it's complex. I'm giving you guys kind of the basics today just so we can get started and get on track. So here's some things. So if you realized you didn't have any burn in your stomach and there's like no stomach acid and you have some of those symptoms of low stomach acid, which is belching, bloating, indigestion, loose stools, then you want to maybe bring some acidity into the tummy. Okay, so the first thing you could do, so some things you could do is get on foods that are more sour and bitter. Okay, sour and bitter, and so what that would be is either like lemon with every meal. Maybe it could be, and lemon and apple cider vinegar are a little different. Lemon really has like an acid. It helps to create an acid, but it's also cooling. Whereas apple cider vinegar is warming and it's acidic but warming. So it's really good for the people, the people that are really cold. Whereas lemon could be better for the people that are a little warmer or neutral. So what you could do is you could take, like at every meal, you could take a couple teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Some people take a tablespoon, but I would start low and then build. Start with a teaspoon, build to up to a tablespoon. And how you know you eventually have enough is, say if you start to do this, over time, once you take a tablespoon, you'll feel a burn and it will feel too burny, and then you got to cut it back. Cut it back to 2 teaspoons, okay? Or cut it back to 1 teaspoon, and then eventually even 1 teaspoon will be too much. And I'm checking and see what my cats are doing right now. Okay, 1 teaspoon will be too much, and then you got to stop. Okay, so just a few little tips to get you going with your digestive system is start to bring some bitters in. So you could either do apple cider vinegar, you could do lemon. Some people actually take hydrochloric acid, okay? And you could do the same thing. You could take a couple hydrochloric acid, betaine hydrochloride, and then you could take it and then take 2 a meal. I always say do it to tolerance, which is, take 4. If you feel a burn at 4, then reduce it by 1, okay? So take 3 before every meal, 3 before every meal, 3 before meal, and when you start to feel a burn again, reduce it by 1, and just keep going until it's fully elevated. Okay, so the other thing you could take for low is Canadian bitters or any kind of bitter herbs. So it could be Canadian bitters by St. Francis. You could take, so things like dandelion, gentian, artichoke. Those are the good ones. Juniper, like just different bitter, the flavor of bitter tonics. There's other herbs like Swedish bitters or cleavers or just different. That's what even having bitter greens at every meal, like dandelion leaves, bok choy, kale, collards can really help with bile production, and you're actually working with the liver to help stimulate more digestion. Okay, so that's the tip I'm going to give you today in terms of low, because I think we're going to have to wrap it up soon. If anyone has any last comments of like the questions they want me to ask me or symptoms where you think you are, pop it in the comment box, okay? And I'll just say this as well. If anybody is needing a breakthrough call and they really are like, I have no idea, like I have a swollen tongue with cracks, I have like multiple things going on and they don't know, book in for a call with me, a free call to just see like, yeah, what can you do to get your health on track and what steps you might have to take and see if you even like me or not, So what else? For high stomach acid, what you got to do is first of all start to reduce some of these things that are creating a lot of acidity, which is, if you're taking apple cider vinegar every day and you have heartburn, not a good idea. Same thing with lemon. So you need to reduce sour and bitter in the diet. Vinegars, fermented foods, wine, alcohol, you know, what else? Coffee, black teas, green teas, all those things can be really irritating your stomach. And start to bring some mucilaginous, cooling herbs into the diet. So things like, for heartburn, one of the best things I love is aloe vera juice. So aloe vera, it's a gel. It comes either in a juice or a gel, and you could take a couple ounces, like a couple times a day. The other herbs as well you could take is like marshmallow tea, slippery elm, or even licorice root tea, licorice tea, three cups a day if you don't have any blood pressure issues. Okay, so those are some like really great tips. I usually don't give this much free info on my calls, but I was like, I used to do these seminars at health food stores, and I just haven't been doing them, and I thought I'm gonna do it in my group because it's just such important information to learn, and just to build a passion about health and herbs and all that funky, juicy stuff. Yeah, Kimmy loves licorice. I think, Kim, like, I feel like you healed your body on licorice tea. Kimmy healed her adrenal fatigue from licorice. It was amazing. Her body was like, hell yeah. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. But next week, what we might go into is raw food. Why, there's a huge raw food movement. I used to be a raw foodie, and now I have all cooked food and raw food in moments. But I think maybe in the next couple weeks I'm going to do a live on why raw is good and why raw is not good for some people. So anyhow, those are some really good tips for everybody. I hope you really enjoyed this call, and let me know. Book in for a breakthrough call if you're feeling you want help with food, cravings, what to do, emotions around food, or even just any other things like anxiety and all that juicy stuff. I love you guys. I hope you're incredible and amazing. I hope you have this amazing day. I'm going to figure out whose energy came up in my body and go work it out. But I love you so much. I love you, Kimmy. I love you, Raya, if you guys are still on the call, and Ian. Have a beautiful day. Pop a comment if there's any topics you want me to talk about. I will do a live on it for you. So much love. Talk soon.